Welcome back to another episode of the Bench Mob Ent podcast, the best sports podcast in New Jersey. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button, share, like, tell any and everybody about this episode. If you listening to this, leave a 5-star rating. Make sure that you spread this around because we're not trying to just be here for a good time. We trying to be here for a long time. Miles, Greg, fellas, how y'all doing tonight?
Doing good.
Good, man. I'm doing great. Doing great. Can't complain.
Now, we're going to have to start off with this because, we had, rightfully so, discussions about Juan Soto being a part of the Mets. The Yankees have been making some moves since that episode, and we told y'all we will keep y'all updated. They have traded for Cody Bellinger as the most recent acquisition. Cody Petit for Bellinger and $5 million. What does this Cody Bellinger trade mean for the Yankees?
I mean, they were never gonna spend 700 and whatever money in this offseason if it wasn't for Juan Soto. If he's not here, they're gonna find a different way to win. So they go out and get a frontline ace sort of starter and Max Fried. You get Cody Bellinger in a trade for basically nothing because they don't want to take on that deal, and it's really could potentially be a 1-year deal if he has a great season, which is something that you want him to do because then he'll opt out, become a free agent, and then boom, you move on that way. And what else? We traded for a closer, all-star closer was pretty good. So to pivot off of Juan Soto like this, he made some good moves. Um, but I think they're saving money. So the next offseason, when Kyle Tucker's a free agent, Vladdy Guerrero Jr. is a free agent, they'll have money to offer some of these guys instead of going all in just because it's like a panic because, oh shoot, we didn't sign Soto to uh, half a century. So,
And look, man, I'm looking at Cody Bellinger's stats right now. So pardon me for the silence. Um, and I see his numbers have really have fluctuated over the years. It looks like he's on the back. I'm onto the back nine of his career. He's still playing decent bit of ball. Yeah, last year with 266 last year, which is pretty solid by these standards. So look, the Yankees are moving around like the sensible team in New York. Like they trying to be smart. They trying to disperse their funds. And it reminds me of what the Mets were doing when the Mets weren't spending heavy. So I understand it. It's cool. Devin Williams is a good. Devin Williams is a good player, man. He's a really closer, good back end of the bullpen guy. Comes in and he either closes for you or he's a setup guy for the setup guy in the eighth, or goes maybe some 2 innings for you. We can do that too. So and then getting freed with Cole is also a really good front end of your pitching staff. So they've done some good things. They certainly can't be done, I would imagine. But they've done some good things, and we'll see how the Cody Bellinger thing works, especially since I heard Giancarlo Stanton and Cody Bellinger have a woman in common, because that was his it was Giancarlo Stanton's ex or
Stanton's
something.
ex is who Bellinger is married to now.
That's great. I'm sure it'll go just great in the locker room. We'll have to wait and see, or the locker room or the clubhouse. But we'll have to see how it goes. But in all seriousness, I think they're making good moves. If you're going to bounce back from losing out on Soto, it's probably about the way you should do it. But you got to imagine that they have to go big fish hunting one more time in this cycle, and it looks like they're not going to do that. Like they're not going to go get Bregman, or they're going to try to get a discount on somebody. Maybe Christian Walker. I don't know.
because those guys are, I mean, Bregman given that deal is going to age like spoiled milk. Bregman.
How old is Bregman?
He's like what 30, around 30. So he's looking for a 7-year, $200 million deal, and his agent is Scott Boras. So I mean, we've seen what happens with Scott Boras clients. Even last offseason with Snell and Montgomery, they didn't get signed until basically the season started. So I don't know who's going to give him that contract that he's looking for. Astros probably not. I think they pivoted off of him. Yankees definitely not. We know it's not going to work here. We're not sinking $200 million into a third baseman who's basically going to be a second baseman. I don't like him. I don't think he's as good that they can't cheat. So, but he'll get paid by somebody. But I do like the next steps that the Yankees are taking. No need to panic and pay guys like Christian Walker because I don't think they're going to sign him. 3-4 years for a guy who's 34. He's a good player, but again, there's no reason for that, especially with a guy like Vlad Guerrero potentially being there in the following offseason. So a guy like Goldschmidt, maybe on a 1-year deal. I'm hearing rumblings on that. So I wouldn't mind that. He's on the back nine, but he's still a good defender. Still hits for pop. So
Look, man, it looks like Bregman's in the back nine. He looks like to your point. Bregman's numbers have kind of plateaued. His best season was in 2019. So I don't know who's going to give him 6 years, 7 years, however much money, however many years he's looking for. But I'm very interested to see, and I know I'm pivoting the conversation to see where Pete Alonso ends up, and hopefully he's back with the Mets and is on a decent contract because I feel like that's where he belongs, and that's how it's going to end when it's all said and done. We're going to have to wait and see on that. We'll see. Hopefully that happens next, though.
Now you mentioned his best year was in 2019, and he's on the back nine of his career. There's a couple players that are on their back nine, and they started off hot, but the last 10 weeks 10 through 14, looking like they're gonna be on the back nine. Kirk Cousins, $100 million man over 4 years, fully guaranteed. 6-3 start, top four in passing yards, top four in TDs. Now, from weeks 10 through 14, the man has thrown, I think it's tied with Brett Favre, 8 interceptions straight at one point between 3 games, which is the most, tied with Brett Favre. And they decided now, which Raheem Morris mentioned it at the beginning of the season. They asked, when is a good time to bench a quarterback? When they not winning no more games. And it's obviously looking like Kirk is not going to be winning any more games. He's on that back nine, fell off the cliff very quickly. It's time for the Micheal Penix Jr. era in Atlanta. What's your expectations? He only got 3 games left this year. What's your expectations? What are y'all seeing, even from Kirk Cousins, the Kirk Cousins side? What are y'all seeing from the situation, and what y'all expect for Penix to end off this season?
well, Kirk has been pretty bad the last month of the season. Um, the numbers don't lie. 1 touchdown, 9 interceptions. He's uh, a snail back there in the pocket. He can't really move. So for them to even keep that game close on Monday night against the Raiders, 15-9, like this team is clearly trying to lose, and you barely snuck out a win against them. Like they had to make a change. They're still in the playoff hunt. It just all boils down to it was a weird move, anyways, in the offseason for them to throw a boatload of money at Kirk and draft Penix. Like they should have just drafted Penix, and they would have saved so much money and been able to use that for other resources for the offensive line, defense, whatever. But it's going to be fun to get to see Penix play. I liked him coming out of college. I think they're going to ease him in. He's not going to do what he was doing in college last year, but he's got weapons there. He's got Drake London. You got Bijan. Bijan should be utilized a fair amount out of the backfield for him. And maybe this will ignite Kyle Pitts, who just seems like he doesn't care about football right now. So he gets a great opportunity against the Giants to work his way in. What better game to play or to ease in for your first start than against the Giants? It's better than playing against like the Ravens or the Steelers or something like that. This is kind of like a good measuring stick, and we'll see. Hopefully he plays well and pushes them forward towards the playoffs, even though I just don't think they're going to make it. They'll probably lose a couple of these last few games, but I'm rooting for Penix. I thought he should have been the pick at 6.
I ain't
Hey,
gonna stick
just
that
before
in
you
there.
just before you go, you did mention he has the Giants coming up, Commanders, and then the Panthers to end off the year.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was the perfect time from a strategy standpoint to start him. It made a lot of sense to start him now against that defense, the Giants defense, which has basically none of their starters really out there. Clearly, the Giants aren't in the trying to win right now. They're not in the business of winning. So when you throw him out there, it's a soft landing for him. You give him a chance to go have some success. And they're going to air it out, but they're going to run the ball and play action off of that a ton with Bijan, and they'll have their way offensively. They'll have their way offensively, right? So I think that he's going to do well to start, and I think he has all the ability in the world to be a good quarterback. The question was always about health. It was about, yo, can you stay healthy? Like, you know what I'm saying? Are your medicals really a concern or something that we should all worry about? But it looks like he obviously cleared that part, and so I'm hopeful for him. I am. I liked him too, believe it or not. And if they took him at 6, I wouldn't have been that mad. To be honest, I really wouldn't have been. Obviously, it didn't work out that way. They didn't see it with him. They didn't see um, you know the top 5 quarterback in the league potential with him. That's really what it boiled down to. But just because he can't be that doesn't mean he can't be one of the better pure throwers in the game and be a top 12 quarterback in the league one of these days if he can stay healthy and string it together. But it's this. I think when you look at the entirety of his games that he has coming up, the Giants are a win, and you look at the Commanders and Panthers who are playing pretty good football, the Panthers included. Um, that's a toss up. It's a toss up. I don't think they're just losing games because of a Kirk Cousins. I think he's one of the biggest reasons why. But we're gonna get a really good idea about what Micheal Penix is about in these next couple of games, and I think it's just gonna be fun to watch. It's always intriguing to watch a young quarterback play as well. Now, as far as Kirk goes, uh, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that Kirk is struggling. I'm not surprised that we're here right now. Since the beginning of the season, he's never looked comfortable with the repaired Achilles, just planning on that back foot. He never really has, man. He had some good games early in the year. Obviously, the 500+ yard game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but with him, it's about what is he going to look like next year, and is it another Russell Wilson situation where he's on a really small deal, like a $1 million deal because he gets cut, right? Can he go into a team at a minimum and have a resurgence, right, and play good football on that team? Certainly possible, especially a year removed from the Achilles injury as well. So he wasn't set up for success, but obviously the Atlanta looks like a bunch of geniuses by covering themselves because they went and got Penix, and he was the perfect insurance. It's almost like it's all coming. Shit, I did.
Yeah, the thing is, they look geniuses on that aspect, but like Miles mentioned, and I know we were all in agreement, that amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
wild behavior. You would think after seeing Deshaun Cosby get the contract that he got, that franchises would wisen up on how much they pay these quarterbacks, especially on the guaranteed aspect. It's the 100 million guaranteed. Kurt, him and his wife, they probably good. They happy. She back home in Georgia.
For
Worked out for
now.
them. Yeah, for now. You mentioned probably not gonna make the playoffs though. It's a little late. They should have probably started Penix earlier to see if they wanted to get in the playoffs. One team that we know that is guaranteed to be in the playoffs and is actually a Super Bowl contender, the Detroit Lions. Now it was another game where Dan Campbell was, some would say aggressive, some would say reckless. Do you think, in your opinion, your thoughts, Dan Campbell's play calling, going for it on fourth, the onside kicks, do you think that's going to hurt the Lions and hold them back from actually going to the Super Bowl and possibly winning it?
I thought the onside kick was stupid at the time because it was like 13 minutes left in the game. I'm like, you're not that far out of it. It's like 10-point game. And it's different this year. You can't just sneak up on them. You have to let them know that you're doing it. So again, doing that with that much time left, I'm like, you're not really catching anybody off guard. That was the only reason to do it back then. It's just like, okay, kicking it off, nope, onside, you recover it, then we go. But for the play calling aspect, this is who he is. He's always been this aggressive guy who kind of he trusts his guys. He trusts Jared Goff. He trusts the offense. Ben Johnson's calling a good game. I mean, they put up 42 points. It's tough. That was almost like a Super Bowl matchup right there against the Bills. Like they lost. It was a good test. They're 12-2. I'm interested to see how they play in the playoffs, though. They got to lock up this number 1 seed, so they got home field advantage throughout the playoffs. That's the biggest thing. Because one, I don't know if Jared Goff wants to go to Philly and play in that cold weather in January, but a dome sounds pretty good to me. Sounds better for him, but Dan Campbell, I think he's going to get there at some point. Maybe even make a Super Bowl run this year because he's. I mean, there's not many other coaches in the league right now that their team kind of encapsulates the mentality of the coach. Like he from day one, he's biting calves and all that stuff, talking about biting kneecaps. Like he means it. Like he's showing it right now. How going for it on 4th down on your own 30 or something like that. That seems crazy, but if a guy has done it and keeps doing it over and over again, and majority of the time, like they're getting first downs, I mean, you can't fault the guy on that. So um, we'll see. We'll see how it ends up this year.
My takeaway watching that game is the injuries are what the real problem is for them, and that's why he's being aggressive because it doesn't justify making a stupid decision like going for an onside kick with 10 minutes left in the game. But you do that kind of stuff when you don't trust your defense to get stops because you've got basically half your starting defense out. And they lost to a superior quarterback. They just did. I mean, Josh Allen's playing the best football in the league, and Lamar. There's a real debate to be had that Lamar's in that conversation. Of course, he is. But not only that, Lamar's like I know the MVP conversation now is whittled down to Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. The numbers are crazy for Lamar, right? When you put them side by side. But some of the throws that Josh Allen makes are just ridiculous. I mean, even in the Lions game, rolling out to his right, throwing it across his body on a line, 15 to 25 yards. Some of the stuff he can do is just like I've never seen anybody really do. He's like Ben Roethlisberger, but like a good athlete. On top of that, you know what I mean, with a really really good arm, like and a Hall of Fame level arm on him as well. So he is special. He is special in every way imaginable on the football field. And you know, I've been hearing this conversation about it, whether or not he's the most talented quarterback ever, because Colin Cowherd went out and said that. And the ever seems like an exaggeration, but when I look at, the combination of his size and then his ability to throw the football and change his arm angles and run the opposite, throwing the ball the opposite direction of which way you're running, which is incredibly difficult, and I'll put it on the money. He threw a chest pass for a touchdown that got called back last week, which is crazy. He is really one-on-one from a talent perspective, more talented than even Aaron Rodgers was because of the fact that you can use him as a bulldozer in the run game. You know what I'm saying? Miles laughing, but for real, like more talented than that. And so he's probably
Hey,
the
you
most
gotta
talented.
state your vax when you talking about A-Rod.
That's right. That's right. This guy, I'd cut him. I'd cut him, by the way. I'm not dealing with it anymore. I don't want that stuff attached to my team if I'm you. If I'm the Jets, I'm not doing it. I'm done. Like, this is ridiculous. It's only going to
He
get worse,
listened. He
too.
listened last week though, because he came out today and said that, I heard Miles talking about the quarterback. I'll gladly mentor a young quarterback next season.
Did he say that?
Yeah, he said he'll mentor a quarterback if he was on the Jets, unless the Jets release him.
He's so resigned. I feel like he knows that if he gets released, like his market won't be as strong as one would think it would be. You know what I mean? People don't want to deal with him. It's over. It's over.
I can see him doing the route that I guess these Packers, QBs take and head over to Minnesota for a year, and they let Sam walk, and JJ just learns from Aaron Rodgers. That wouldn't be a bad spot to land. But Aaron Rodgers, whatever happens, happens. I'm good off it. If he comes back, whatever. If he leaves, doesn't matter to me at this point. And then the kid Owler's going back to Penn State. So the target that I had, because we're not going to get high enough to take one of the top 2 quarterbacks. Although the Giants might pass. They might pass on him.
Oh, exactly.
It wasn't the point of who he rubbed his hand, saying the complexion they might pass on.
I didn't see him rub his hand. Of course, he's saying that. And okay, we still running
Now,
with this.
I'm trading back. I can't do it.
now you mentioned at the top of the draft. One player that definitely will be at the top of the draft. Actually, a couple of them that's going to be at the top of the draft is Travis Hunter and Ashton Genty. It was an absolute uproar on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, Threads, wherever you was at for your sports on the social medias. It was a lot of debate on whether or not Travis Hunter deserved the Heisman. What say y'all? Did he deserve it?
I mean, yeah. The numbers, sure. Ashton Genty's numbers, they look unreal. Like 24, almost 2,500 yards rushing. You can't knock it. 25 touchdowns. You would think that he would have gotten it just off the fact that they're in the playoff. You would think winning matters too. But then for Colorado, Travis did literally everything. Like he never left the field pretty much. So that was a big point of emphasis here, was that he won Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. He was up for the award for the best receiver in the country. He should have been up for the award for the D back, but for a best D back in the country. But I'm sure that was all politics to not, pub him up too much. So I think the voters got it right. It was a close race, but Travis had an unreal season. Even like Charles Woodson wasn't doing it at this sort of level, even though Charles Woodson was elite in college at Michigan. But like Travis, the numbers he put up at receiver, and then him playing doing what he did on defense, getting picks, making plays, like he looks natural out there on both sides of the ball. And it's like a unicorn effect. Like he was like Shohei Ohtani. You're not gonna give it to somebody else because this other guy's doing it twice as good as you. I mean, I thought his girl won the Heisman the way we talked about it this week. So, but I'm shout out to Travis. He's a special talent. I'm hoping that he makes it. Well, it'll be interesting. Let me not get off topic, but it'll be interesting to see like what his main position will be at the next level. I like him more as a receiver than corner, but depends on the team.
Well, you you know they're not going to try to pay him that wide receiver money.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, look, Travis is doing something that we've never seen. To play like be the team's starting corner and be the team's starting wide receiver is unbelievable, and to do it at top 2 level in the country on both sides was wild. To win a Bolitnikoff and like wide receivers was considered your second position as people who were like analyzing the game. That's incredible. That's incredible. He's one of the greatest athletes we've ever seen. I mean, like the way he jumps in the air and can pluck the ball out the air and toward his body and make all these crazy catches as well. And then he's just a smart football player too. Like on top of it, I don't think there's really any way you could look at this and say he's not deserving. Obviously, Ashton Genty was incredible. I mean, averaging a first down a touch is insane. It is, but when I look at the year that Travis had and what he did and the fashion in which he did it as well, you can't take that away from him. You can't. So I think it's a pretty easy call in that sense. Like I felt like the favorite was gonna be Travis because of everything he'd done, because of the fact that he'd gone playing both ways and done it successfully, something we don't see in football. I just kind of had a feeling it was going to end this way. So I'm not surprised at that at all. But again, Ashton's numbers are crazy. And if it had gone to Ashton, I'd have no problem with it. Like I said on this podcast before, Ashton's numbers are insane. I mean, the stuff he's doing as a running back a while, but we've seen great running backs before. And maybe not this level, but we've seen great running backs. We've never seen a guy be dominant, on both sides of the football and change football games from both positions, a wide receiver and corner. So Travis is deserving, man. Travis is deserving.
Now, Ashton Genty does have something up on Travis. They'll be in a bowl game, Colorado, but Ashton Genty is a part of the college football playoff. His team, Boise State, Arizona State, Georgia, and Oregon, the number one overall seed, all has buys. Now to break it down for y'all, it's the 16 teams. First round is December 20th and the 21st. For y'all, now that we have this setup, it's not just the top four teams. We got a full slate of 12 teams, right? It's 12, right? Yeah, 12. I don't know why I said 16. I'm thinking about college basketball. Anywho, 12-team playoff right here, set up like that. This is the first time we're seeing it. What are some of the most intriguing matchups for y'all? And of course, we got to know our listeners, our viewers want to know who do y'all see actually winning the whole thing?
Man,
That Tennessee Ohio State game, I feel like
that's a good game.
that's a good game. That's gonna be a
That's a real good game.
so I think that might be the best one of the opening round games. Because Indiana versus Notre Dame, I could watch that on mute. Clemson, Texas, that one could be good because Quinn Ewers is playing like a guy who's going to leave next year, and not for the league, for the portal. So that could be a game where we see an upset where Clemson knocks off Texas. So that's another one that's very interesting. And then Penn State, SMU. I feel like Penn State should win that pretty easily. And then what you're saying is like the team that I think is going to win it, probably Georgia. I just think that of the teams that are left, well, I'll take that back. Let me say Oregon because I don't know if Carson Beck is going to be able to play after that injury in the championship game, and if they have to roll with that backup, which he got the job done, but you're asking a lot of him to go ahead and win a couple games against some of the best teams in the country. I don't know if he's ready for that. So I'm going to roll with Oregon. I think the way that they run their offense, it's very electric. It's typical for Oregon. A lot of spread offense, a lot of motion. They work really quick. Dylan Gabriel, really good quarterbacking this year. So I'm rocking with Oregon still.
I'm gonna take Georgia. I'll take the SEC powerhouse that always gets it done. Not a fun pick, not a pick that's off the wall and no one expected it. But I mean, every time I watch Georgia play, the defense is just dominant. I think the Carson Beck injury is a very fair, thing to take into consideration. But I just think that as a whole, they have the most NFL players on offense and defense kind of playing for them. Man, they're a powerhouse. They still maintain that supremacy as a football team in terms of getting the most talent, and the SEC being the best conference in football. So I'm gonna go with them to get the job done. I think looking at a team like Oregon, and I know they're Big Ten now. But seeing them, I still look at them like they're a Pac-12 team, man. And these Pac-12 teams are finesse and they're not as physical. And Georgia is just way too physical for a team like that. That is really finesse and is really, just trying to win on the edges, trying to win outside with these throws and these screen passes and the spread offense and all that stuff. And Dylan Gabriel, we don't really gonna see how good of a quarterback you are playing against the best talent in the country. Not saying he isn't, but if you look at it from an NFL standpoint, is he a guy you want leading your franchise? Is that how good you feel about him? I don't. I don't. So I think this will be a good time for us to get a good look at him. I'm more excited than anything else to watch the kid Nico play football for Tennessee and go up against that Ohio State defense, which is really, really talented. I think it's going to be a chance for him to have a coming out party, so to speak, right? And to come out there and show everybody he's the real deal and for his name to become a household name in football. because that's a guy that people are going to be looking at in the NFL draft next year and probably talking about as one of the number one or number two pick in the draft, or at most, at worst, number three. So there's a lot to be excited about when you look at it. There's a lot to be excited about with the college ball playoff as well. Can James Franklin finally win a big game? We'll find out. Playing against SMU, there's a chance they lose that game, man. I mean, he's never won a big game before. Why would he start now? Kind of way I look at it. Like, well, let's get a look and see what happens. But yeah, man, the college football playoff overall is exciting, and I think it's interesting this year. We have teams like Arizona State with a bye. Never would have seen that coming, right? Never would have seen. Well, maybe the experts would have, but I sure didn't. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how this all goes and to see if Georgia can pull it off in spite of the injuries. And I know Beck's had some time to rest, so we'll see.
Before we transition to talking about some NBA talk, it's been rumors, it's been talked about. Stephen A has come out and said that he thinks it's full cap that Deion is going to stay at Colorado. Do y'all think Deion ultimately stays at Colorado or is just waiting for that opportunity from a big name school to get that chicken and go elsewhere?
I just think college coaches, you can't trust any of them. Like in college, you can bolt whenever you want to wherever you want. It's all about moving up the ladder. He's done a great job at Colorado. I do end up seeing, I see that he's going to leave at some point. But with everybody coming in now, I think they've got this top recruit coming in at QB. Maybe he'll see it through. I'm hoping he does because it would be cool to see him build something sustainable at Colorado after being so bad for so long. He's come here and changed the whole trajectory of this program, this school, this college. So I hope he doesn't leave. I do. I could see him, going to Alabama. They're losing all these recruits. If they wanted somebody who can really change the narrative about what's going on at Alabama post Saban, I know they brought in a guy from Washington, but he's cool. But you're losing top recruits. Like you're losing your top receiver possibly this year, the Williams kid. So I don't know if you're going to keep him with this guy at coach. Maybe if Deion comes over and coaches for you, he's able to, build the program back up, make it look cool again. Because Alabama, they're supposed to be the top dog. They're supposed to be in this playoff, but they had a down year, and I think the writing's on the wall. Like kids are seeing that, and they're transferring out. They're decommitting and going somewhere else. So if any place opened up, Alabama would be the dream job, I think, for Deion. Either that or Florida State. I think Florida State will open up sooner than Alabama. But actually, I changed that. I think Florida State would be perfect, his alma mater. But I hope he stays at Colorado.
Speaking of coaching, staying within this, and I know Greg, you definitely want to chime in on this, and of course, Miles, you are free to chime in on this. Mike Vick just got a job over at, I believe it was Norfolk State. Another coach that got a job recently that happened last week that we didn't get to touch on. Bill Belichick is back in coaching. He's going to be at UNC. He got everything he wanted and more. One of the most beautiful contracts that you could ever get with all the stipulations and with everything else added and the icing on top. Bill got everything he wanted and more. What's your thoughts on Bill Belichick not going back to the NFL, but deciding at his tender age of going to coach college football?
I mean, I'm not surprised. Bill figured out he couldn't get his way and get control of an organization the way he had in New England, and be the GM and be the coach, which is what he feels he's supposed to be doing and what he feels he deserves and he's earned with his track record. But it's easy to say you've earned that when you didn't pick Tom. Like, Tom fell into your lap, and he happened to be the greatest quarterback to ever live. So it worked out. It worked out, right? And that's how you've had a lot of that success, obviously. So Bill's ego is why he's in at UNC. There's no doubt about that. as well. I will say the angle that no one looks at is when a man has a 24 or whatever year old girlfriend, 23, and you put him on a college campus filled with 23 and 24-year-old girls. We're itching for a little bit of a good old fashioned college scandal, on campus. So that's interesting too. I thought about that immediately when I saw he went to UNC as well, because we know he liked him young. So we'll have to see how that goes as well. But in all seriousness, man, I mean, I had a hard time envisioning him recruiting kids. I had a really hard time seeing that. I just don't know how a guy like him, who has been so hardline, is an old school coach and doesn't have time for the nonsense. And I can't see him sitting there talking about the NIL, talking about NIL money with kids and having any appreciation at all for the fact that NIL played such a big factor in these kids' recruitment process as well. So he just doesn't seem like the guy for this. And at 72 years old, I don't know if he has the stamina for the recruitment trail. It's not really about coaching football. We know if he's coaching the football game, his teams are going to be really, really prepared. They're going to be really, really good. I don't really doubt that, especially at that level. He'll coach circles around some of these coaches at that level. But it's really about the recruitment trail and everything that comes with managing a program that I worry about when it comes to Bill Belichick. I really do. It just feels like a kind of like a desperate hire by UNC a little bit. Like, obviously he's a great coach, but how long is he going to be there? You know what I mean? Like, is he, in the time that he's there, can he turn your program around, and can he get kids to come play for him? That's the biggest thing, right? I think that's the biggest thing that you got to take into account with this situation as well. But again, his ego is certainly why he's here, and he couldn't be patient for another year and wait. And I know he was interested in the Jets job after talking all that trash on Pat McAfee, and they basically turned him down too. So I know his feelings are hurt, and we'll have to wait and see how it goes there. But yeah, man.
I'm intrigued by it too because we just talked about Deion, and Deion has that allure. Deion has, I'm a former player. I got swag. I understand the kids. I understand the NIL process. We saw somebody that he was on commercials with, Nick Saban, said, I ain't with this NIL nonsense, and got up out of it. Who is going in that generation of 16, 17, 18-year-old kids that are like, yo, I want to go play for Bill Belichick. I want to go play for him. That's in the Lord. You know what Bill did with Tom Brady? Oh yeah, I want to go play for him. Man, out of 16, 17-year-old kids coming there, and I can't see Bill Belichick talking like Greg said, money with these kids. He didn't want to pay a grown man. This would have made sense 15 years ago where you could control and you ain't had no transfer portal, you ain't have stuff like that. And it's basically you're controlling these kids and you literally basically own them, and they have to do whatever you tell them to do to try to have that success to go to the next level. But now they could transfer. They want to know how much money you gonna pay me, Bill. And outside of him having a 22-year-old girlfriend, I don't see him having any relations with none of these high school kids coming into college.
I think it could be interesting with him. Like, I feel like he might not get like the 5-star recruits because I don't know many 5-stars who are going to go to UNC anyways. But I think he's going to be able to get kids to buy in to what he's selling in a way. Like, he's proven that he can win at the NFL level. He's got to prove it at college. He's going to look for guys that are team players, a lot of team players. He's not looking for guys who are just in it for whatever reasons. Sure, they up the NIL package, so money does speak volumes for these kids. But I also think that looking for the different kids out there, transfer portal or not, like he's gonna find guys that are gonna buy in, know that this is a guy who's got connections. He can get me to the NFL. He knows what he can, like, he's coached at the NFL level for like 40 years. So he knows what it takes for you to play at the next level. So I think there's valuable experience and knowledge that he brings to college that some of these kids are going to see and hopefully listen to him. Like, that's the problem with the transfer portal is if you don't want to listen to somebody, you just transfer. You like, it used to be a punishment, like if you transfer, because you got to sit out a year. Now You just basically you hopping from college to college, like it's like it's College Hill or something. So um, I'm I'm hopeful that Bill can kind of ease up a little bit in his 72 years of age, and maybe with this younger girlfriend he'll ease up a little more on some of these kids. So, um, but I want to see him do well. As bad as it sounds for a Jets fan to want to see him do well, I want to see him do well because he's got nowhere else to go. And that whole Jets thing, that was all fake. He just wanted to throw out that big FU on the way out to the Jets to make it seem like, oh, they turned me down. Like they had no interest in you. Woody Johnson doesn't like you. You don't like Woody. Why would he hire you in the first place? You weren't an option. But he threw it out there to the media like, oh, I reached out to the Jets to show I'm interested in the job. Like you were interested in the job 30 years ago and you left with a note. So whatever. But hey, Bill, if you can do something in college, leave a legacy for your son, because he'll be the coach once he's done. It'll be interesting to see.
All right, Bill Brady, one of the best duos ever that we've seen. They both needed each other. Whether people want to, you could have the debate all day. It was Brady, it was Bill. Bill had some elite defenses that helped him out big time. Brady wasn't always Brady. So they needed each other in that process to equal greatness. As Greg mentioned, the ego is what got Bill over in North Carolina. The ego is what had him and Tom Brady break up. Looking on the NBA side, who comes to mind right now for y'all top five in the NBA right now? Top five duos. Because of right now, they just won the cup. I believe if my math was correct in my studies and my findings, Giannis and Dame right now are the top scoring duo in the league. Do y'all have them top five though in your duos? Who are y'all top five NBA duos right now?
Off the top of my head, kind of thinking about the teams around the league. Obviously Dame and Giannis come to mind. They're great. They're a great tandem as well. I always look at the situation in Phoenix as a duo more than a trio because Bradley Beal is walking around like half a man these days. He ain't really the same player he once was. So I don't think he's a part of that equation. And clearly they feel the same way I do because they're dangling him in trade talks. He's out there, right? Even with that no trade clause. Um, so I would say D Book and KD are certainly from a talent perspective and on any given night they can beat you. Those guys are certainly a duo that we have to watch out for as well. It's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of other really good duos around the league too. I'd probably say um, I think that Brunson and Cat are like kind of on the outside looking in. This is one of those. Certainly, you could even put them in there as a fringe top five duo in the league as well. I think they're really, really talented. I like Paolo and Franz when they're healthy and together. Paolo and Franz are going to be two guys that you got to look out for the rest of really for the rest of this generation's timeline in terms of like this era of basketball. This time, like these guys are young. They're kind of the guys following up a little LeBron era in the Steph Curry era. So they're the new next generation as well. So I'd say them. And then I'd even look at a team like it's funny, Ant and Cat would have been in this conversation last year, but of course they went and blew that up. So like idiots. But I'd also look at a team like the Thunder as well. I think if you look at Shea and J Dub, it's funny how it's changed. It used to be Shea and Chet. Now it's Shea and J Dub. J Dub's kind of ascending and becoming a really, really, really talented player. I'd probably look at them as one of those top duels in the NBA as well. On any given night, either one of those guys can beat you. So I'd say those are kind of the guys. Obviously, there's LeBron and AD. They may not have been playing like it recently, and LeBron's aging on the back nine, but they deserve that respect. If you want to put him in there, it's totally fine. I got no problem with that too, as well. I'd say those are certainly it. And then obviously in Golden State, Steph's by himself, like Will Smith in that meme, hanging out in his living room. That's just Steph right now. And Dennis Schroeder doesn't change that.
I got the dudes from Boston. Jalen
Oh, I
Brown,
forgot about them. Oh, my
Jason
bad.
Tatum. It's not like
That
they
wasn't
won
on
a championship
purpose.
recently or
That
anything.
wasn't on purpose. I'm sorry.
He just
I got
cut for those that's watching this and listen to this later. He just coached a double overtime game, so he a little tired. Go ahead, Bob.
so I got those two. I got Dame and Giannis. They seem to be rolling on all cylinders right now. Right now, I'll say. Um, Luca and Kyrie. I think they made that nice run last year. Let's see if they can do it again this year. Fourth in the West. I like Cat and Brunson. I like Cat and Brunson. I think they complement each other. They're still figuring things out. Cat is having one of the better seasons in Knicks history for a center right now, and Brunson's playing the point guard role to a T. Well, somewhat to a T, but he'll get there. And I'm looking down the list of teams. I'm not putting Jokic and Murray in there anymore. Murray, he's like Brandon Roy. I don't know if there's any more cartilage in those knees because he's not moving too good. Um, but I'll put Durant and D Book. That's probably the next duo. I think that's five, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's five.
Now you mentioned Jamal Murray, and we don't know about the cartilage and what's going on with that situation right there. It's NBA trade deadline season. The deadline isn't coming up for a little bit, but all the rumors are flying. Of all the rumors that you have heard, which one is the most intriguing in regarding a player or a team? Like the Nuggets been linked to multiple players. From what you've been seeing, what you've been hearing so far, which one of these you think moves the needle the most or is most intriguing to you?
I think if Jimmy Butler were to get moved at some point, I know he's on the last year of his deal, and there's been some button heads of between him and Pat Riley. Um, so I wonder if they would pivot now as opposed to just waiting out the year and then seeing like, do we bring Jimmy back or let him walk? I mean, Pat Riley seems like a guy who's thinking ahead. So even by this deadline, he could move Jimmy. And then Zach Levine, I'm interested to see if he's moved at some point because yeah, he's playing a lot better than I thought he would be, especially coming off the injuries and all that stuff. So why not capitalize on this guy who's making a boatload of money and it's on a rebuilding team? This team is uh, they're on the verge of blowing it up at some point. So I want to see where he goes or if he stays. It would be dumb for them not to explore their options. And then
If Zach ends up, one of the names was the Denver Nuggets, do you think that moves the needle at all if he ends up over in Denver?
um, I don't know. I don't think it does. I don't think it moves it that much. I mean, they'll be better, but you'll still have. It's gonna be that be a crazy starting lineup. You'll have what Zach Levine, uh, Zach Levine, Jokic, who else? Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray. Like that's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So um, I don't like that fit on Denver. I hope he goes somewhere else if he does. And then Bi too. I want to see does Bi get traded at some point because the Pelicans, from what I'm hearing, basically everybody's available except for like Trey, Herbert Jones, and maybe a couple of the other young guys. So Zion could finally get his way and get up out of New Orleans. Same with Bi. So um, a lot of rumors swirling right now, and like you said, the deadline's not for another month or two. So
What about the CJ to Milwaukee rumor? We saw that right before the show started. CJ being reunited with his brother Damian Lillard.
he saw the chip. He wants a chip too. He saw them win the in season tournament. He's like, Dame got a ring, I need a ring. So maybe that's why he thinks, or that could be an option. But they do need another piece on this team. Like you lost something when you got rid of Drew, and sure Dame is great, but you're missing something on this team. Like this team is not going to make a finals run as constructed. Um, so maybe CJ goes over there and helps them. He knows how to play the secondary role, so he he'd be fitting in. But they already have Middleton, so it's a I don't know what they're thinking with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about these trades. I think Denver has a chance to do something pretty interesting if they can go get Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith or one of those two guys. I don't think they're a star away. I don't know that they. I think Levine can play winning basketball and fit that role for them well. It's about how well he plays defense, playing for Mike Malone at that point. But if you're asking him to knock down timely threes or get timely buckets down the stretch, and you have him or Jokic, it could get scary too. That's a significant move, and it's interesting that they're the ones to make that move. And we've heard different teams linked to the Bulls, and no one's ever pulled the trigger on that trade. But if you let them do it, and they're the ones who look like smell like roses, and they look smart, like the smartest people in the room, because they make a trade for Zach LaVine, who I think people around the NBA still all know he can play at a high level. Listen, I think a lot of teams in the NBA are going to live to regret that, allowing him to go to Denver. I do. I think it would go really well, and I think it'd be a good fit. And it probably propelled him to a championship, honestly, as well. That being said, dangling Michael Porter Jr. is really, really interesting. I think, of all all their really good players in that roster, the top end players in that roster, he's the most expendable one on Denver. So if you're going to make a trade, I would certainly be looking to kind of see what I can get from Michael Porter Jr. And I think the Nets should be interested in Michael Porter Jr. as just a guy that you can, you young player you can try to like revitalize, right? Obviously he's still playing at a high level right now and everything, but see him in a bit of a different role, a little more responsibility, 6'10" shooter. I don't see how you can go wrong with that. So it'd be really interesting to see how that goes. And it's suddenly they have the most valuable trading chip, right, on the market. If you really think about it, of all these teams that are trying to get better, not worse, but better, because the one's trying to get worse by trading BI and all that stuff. Denver has the most valuable trading chip in Michael Porter Jr. So really, really interesting to see what they do, and they're really smart over there. And for the fact that they're willing to make that move and even part ways with him at all. Obviously, the Lakers and we heard little rumors about Colin Sexton as a swap for D'Angelo Russell. I've been trying to find the words because I think I spoke to Tone about this, and whenever I say Pelinka's name, I literally have no words to follow because I'm so tired of like saying the same thing. What Lil Baby say, I'm tired of being tired of being tired. I was like, that's how I feel about the Lakers, man. It's one of those things where Pelinka is not good at his job, and yet he keeps it. And after the Russell Westbrook trade, he should have been fired, to be honest. Whether it was LeBron's idea, everyone wants to blame LeBron. He still pulled the trigger. You ain't gonna fire LeBron James now, are you? I mean, if the answer is yes, you're an idiot. We shouldn't be watching this show. And I really don't got time for it. But yeah, I think he should have been fired. So if we're talking about little trades on the exterior, like a Colin Sexton or Valanciunas, which I like Valanciunas for them, I think it'd be pretty cool. It'd be a good move. The problems on this roster are shooting and perimeter defense. And I don't think that Valanciunas solves that problem. All Valanciunas does is make you a better matchup for Denver. Like you can potentially give Denver a run for their money by adding Valanciunas or adding Robert Williams, but you don't make yourself more of a championship contender. You're not going to beat OKC. You're not going to beat Dallas, right? And these top teams in the West because you don't shoot three ball well enough to, right? You don't create enough spacing on the floor to let LeBron drive to the rim and create for his teammates, right? You need to be exploring and that's why I hate the Colin Sexton rumors, because I'm like, I know Colin Sexton is shooting 42% in Utah. That ball a lot lighter in Utah than it is in LA because they ain't playing for nothing in Utah. So he can shoot the basketball he wants. He can shoot the skin off the ball over in Utah. It doesn't mean anything because he's not playing for anything. We don't know how he's going to adjust to playing with real expectation. The same way D'Angelo Russell played pretty well early, and then obviously now the ball weighs 300 pounds and he can't even get up to the rim 9 times out of 10. So I just, looking at the situation in LA, it's a dire situation, man. I mean, I hope that these rumors about Rui being part of the future and Austin Reeves being a part of the future and they're untouchables. I hope that's all fake and smoke, because they can't stop you from making a big trade. And if I were the Lakers, I'd go into the luxury tax. I know Janie Brokass ain't gonna do it, but I'd go into the luxury tax and I'm making a trade for a superstar like a Trey Young or something. If the Hawks would come up off him, but I'll say this right now, and I'm going to preface this. I know Trey Young's playing great basketball. I know the Hawks are back in love with Trey Young because he's passing the ball at a high level and he's playing good defense. He's not trying to jock up every single shot. So I think he's going to be there. I think they see him as a building block. That whole Trey Young getting traded thing is probably over for now. So I don't see him getting moved. But that's the kind of move you got to be thinking about if you're the Lakers, because that's historically who the Lakers are. So get back to your roots. You can't because you're broke, but get back to your roots. Tone, I got something for you actually. Got threw some water in my face, and it just came back to my head. I was thinking about it earlier. On the Eagles, because Jalen came out and said that nonsense after the game, talking about some oh yeah, yes, that's what you guys want to see, right? Okay. So on the Eagles, of all this skill positions on offense, of these ones, right? Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, of them all. And what's the weakest link on that team right now?
Repeat the question again.
Of all these position groups on offense, quarterback, wide receiver, and running back, what position would you say is the weakest right now on the Eagles?
Oh, quarterback.
Okay, I'm just saying.
You can win a Super Bowl with that being the case. The Broncos did it with Peyton Manning, so
you could. Huh? Hold on.
What do you mean? He was awful. His last year they won it.
Okay. I'm trying to remember the year.
He got benched for who was that? I can't remember.
Was it Brock Osweiler?
That was a top tier defense that year with Von Miller and the crew. Yeah,
I'm trying to remember because I remember when I think about the Broncos, the Peyton Manning era Broncos, I think about the year he threw 61 touchdowns. I don't think about the year where he was a shell of himself. But obviously,
he won the Super Bowl that year, though.
That's fair. That's fine. I'm not saying you can't win. That's not the knock. I'm just saying, like, Jalen talking the big game right now for a guy who's not playing at a high level. That's all I'm saying.
He had a great game though. He could talk.
He did. That's great. What do you do? 16 for 18, 125, couple touchdowns. What do you do? 175.
Yeah, see.
Hey, at the end of the day, he didn't come to the podium like he had a Josh Allen game though, or Lamar Jackson game. And the thing that's funny about Philly is supposedly the city of brotherly love, but it's a lot of hate that Philly got for pretty much everybody else in the world. Those fans are really, really, really some of the worst fans in the world. And regarding Jalen Hurts and that whole situation, I don't know how they mad at the media. This was a situation that y'all created. Your teammate, BG, said that. Ain't nobody was saying nothing about AJ Brown and him, and if y'all was close buddies and if y'all had handshakes. Y'all created that problem and then got on this post game in the press conference and talking about, is this what y'all wanted? Is that what you wanted, Jalen? Because we ain't saying nothing. Up until this point, on this pod, outside of Greg pointing out, of course, the different things that he sees are flaws in his game, the media as a whole, ain't nobody was saying about Jalen Hurts. They just wanted. Nobody was saying nothing. So this is not what we wanted. This is not what we wanted, Jalen. That's what you wanted. That's what AJ Brown wanted. That's what Devontae Smith wanted. They wanted that.
Yeah, and like, Tone, seeing people in the comments talking about like what I said about Saquon, like saving the Eagles this year, and they're gonna refer back to the fact that every running back does well behind that Hall of Fame offensive line. Like, y'all want to be literal. Y'all want to be literal when you want to be literal. I see that. What I mean is that he adds a completely different dimension to that team than any other running back that's been there has. Like, you can hit a home run on any given play with Saquon Barkley. He is literally saving drives because he's just that good. You're adding a Hall of Fame running back to a Hall of Fame offensive line. Obviously, it elevates your team. And even when they're struggling offensively and they're not able to throw the football, there have been games where they for real can't throw the football. They can't operate a pass game, right? Because Jalen Hurts is just that good. Then you have Saquon Barkley who comes in and he can literally save the day by making guys miss, running, making incredible plays, but spinning around, jumping over dudes backwards. He's been all world. He's in the MVP conversation. He was in the MVP conversation up until last weekend, and when he had 61 yards against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Miles Sanders wasn't going to be an MVP conversation. Like, add context to what I'm saying, guys. Just come on.
Also, to add context to that game, maybe, just maybe, this is what the Steelers wanted anyway. They made sure they came into the game plan, which I think we look into the playoffs coming up. This is going to be everybody's game plan. Can we slow down Saquon and we will live with Jalen Hurts having to pass and go win the game. And this game, again, context, they weren't down. You weren't facing another elite quarterback on the other side.
Nope.
What happens in a game in the playoffs? They see the Lions, and Saquon only got 61. What you doing against that Lions offense? Is Jalen going to be able to have a shootout with them?
No.
Jalen going to have a shootout with Jordan Love?
Not this year.
I don't know. The thing that's the saving grace for them on the flip side, because I don't have no dog in this fight. The Lions defense is abysmal, so Saquon might not have a problem. The Packers defense has some injuries. Depending on when they get to the playoffs, if they're healthy, maybe they could slow them down. But if they see the Lions, that defense is a turnstile. Saquon might get 200 in a playoff game. That's their saving grace. The matchup is going to be huge for them because if it's a defense that could make it a little bit difficult for Saquon, are we trusting Jalen Hurts to go past 30, 35 times and go get a win?
Not this year. And that's the point. Not this year, right?
Hey, that O-line going to really have to put in some work. Make sure that Saquon always has holes to get to where he need to go, because quarterback, wide receiver, running back, weakest link, Jalen Hurts. Sad to say, it is what it is. It ain't looked the same since that Super Bowl game. But shout out again, we always talk about it. They got one of the best GMs in the league, man. He knows, he may not come out and say it, he knows we need to have Jalen surrounded with the best talent as much as possible for us to succeed. Because the GM, he ain't trying to lose his job. So he knows Jalen Hurts warts. So the GM said, I'm going to stay ready. So I don't got to get ready. Bench Mob, we out. Peace.
Yo, leave Travis Hunter girl alone, man.